Hello everyone. Uh, Today we will be discussing about Azure Databricks architecture in this video. So let's start. So in Azure Databricks architecture, it's basically operates out of a control plane and a data plane. So there are two things. One is control plane and another is data plane. So what actually control plane is? The control plane includes the backend services that Azure Databricks manages in its own Azure account. Notebook commands and many other workspace configurations are stored in the control plane and encrypted at rest. So it contains Databricks UI, customer notebooks, jobs, and queries along with cluster manager. It is basically the Databricks subscription. So this is the control plane. See, there are notebooks, there are Databricks UI, jobs, and queries along with cluster manager, and it comes basically under Databricks subscription. The next one is the data plane. So your Azure account manages the data plane and is where your actual data resides. So this is also where the data is actually processed. So it contains the Databricks workspace, Azure blob storage, VNet, network security group. It is basically the customer subscription in Azure. So if you are a customer, you will be having a subscription in Azure. So this data plane will be in the customer subscription of your Azure. Okay, and here is where the actual data will be residing. So your data is stored at rest in your Azure account in the data plane and in your own data sources, not in the control plane. So you maintain control and ownership of the data. So you will be having control over your own data and you will be the owner of your own data. So job results resides in storage in your account. And user will be accessing the control plane through Azure AD through single sign-on. So this is basically Azure Databricks architecture. Now we will be seeing how it actually works through a diagram. So you can see here there are two things. One is control plane and another one is data plane. So within control plane we have Databricks UI, customer notebooks, jobs and queries, cluster manager and DBFS. These are all coming under Databricks subscription. And another one is data plane, that is the Databricks workspace, the VNet and NSG, Azure blob storage or ADLS Gen 2. So storage for new workspace is ADLS Gen 2. Workspace which are created before March 6, 2023 uses blob storage. Okay, so whenever you will be creating one workspace of Azure Databricks in your own account, you will be able to see that these things are got created. Actually, one Databricks workspace will be there. There will be one VNet and NSG will be created, and a storage account will be created. Okay, so how now this will be working? So suppose a user is trying to access your Databricks. So you will be accessing that through Azure AD single sign-on. Okay, so you will be accessing the control plane, and based on whatever it is trying to run, it is trying to process the data using cluster. So Azure Resource Manager will be creating these VMs, okay, for processing the data. So you can see Cluster Manager through Azure Resource Manager will be creating these VMs for processing of the data in your data plane itself. And you can see already the DBFS is there on top of the Azure Blob Storage ADLS Gen 2, which we already discussed. So now after this is being created, you can launch cluster from here, which will be processing the data here, or you can initiate the job from here into the data plane, which will be again processed here. And once everything is processed, you can from here also you will be getting all the push and pull of the metadata and push the logging data as well. So this as a whole, from a top level, this is an Azure Databricks architecture. So you are as a user, you are using Azure AD single sign-on to the control plane, and in the data plane, your processing of data and your actual data resides. So this is the Azure architecture. Okay, thank you for joining. Let's meet in the next video. Thank you.